The first thing I saw when I woke up was not a ceiling. It was Denise Whitaker. My ex-girlfriend's mother was sitting beside my hospital bed with both hands wrapped around a paper cup of coffee she clearly hadn't touched. Her eyes were swollen. Her cardigan was buttoned wrong. And when she realized I was awake, she looked relieved for exactly half a second before guilt took over her whole face. That was how I knew something was wrong. Not regular wrong either. Not you totaled your truck wrong or your insurance deductible is going to make you religious wrong. This was the kind of wrong people carry in their mouths because they're afraid one word will break the room. Graham, she whispered. I tried to answer, but my throat felt like I'd swallowed sandpaper and a handful of pennies. Denise jumped up and reached for the little plastic cup with the bendy straw on my bedside table. Slow, just a sip. I took it because apparently near-death experiences make a man less proud about being spoon-fed water by the woman who once caught him sneaking out of her daughter's bedroom window at 23. For the record, I am 32 now. A grown man, a cabinet maker with my own shop, a mortgage, lower back pain when it rains, and a drawer full of socks I keep promising myself I'll match someday. I build custom kitchen islands and walnut dining tables for people who say things like, "We want it to feel organic, but upscale." I can operate a table saw with one hand and talk a couple out of white oak without raising my voice. But in that hospital bed, I felt about 12. What happened? I rasped. Denise's fingers tightened around the cup. There was an accident. That explained the beeping machines, the bandage on my arm, the dull thunder behind my eyes, and the fact that my left leg felt like it belonged to someone who had lost an argument with a sidewalk. What kind of accident? Car accident. She looked toward the door, then back at me. You were on Mill Road. It was raining hard. A deer ran out, they think. You swerved. They think? The police report isn't finished. Police report. That phrase made my stomach clench, but not as much as the next question forming in my head. Why are you here? Denise went still. That was the thing about Denise Whitaker. She was a terrible liar. Always had been. She could organize a church fundraiser, negotiate with florists, and scare teenage boys into respecting curfews with one eyebrow, but she could not hide a feeling to save her life. And right then, her face was full of something she didn't want me to see. I was called, she said. By who? A nurse came in before she could answer. Young guy, kind face, name tag that said Marcus. He checked the monitor, asked me my name, the year, and if I knew where I was. Hospital, I said, and judging by the smell, one that hates coffee. Marcus smiled. Good. Sense of humor intact. Depends who you ask. He asked me about pain. I told him the truth, which was that everything hurt except my pride because my pride had apparently fled the scene. After he left, Denise sat back down slowly. I studied her. My parents? On a flight from Phoenix. Your sister's driving from Dayton. So again, I said, why are you here? Her eyes filled. And just like that, the room changed. The machines kept beeping. Rain tapped the window. Somewhere down the hall, someone laughed too loud at something that wasn't funny enough. But Denise looked at me like I was a door she was afraid to open. Graham, she said, there are things you may not remember yet. I swallowed. That's comforting. You had a concussion. The doctor said the last few hours before the crash might be blurry. The last thing I remembered was standing in my shop around 5:30, sanding the edge of a maple tabletop, listening to an old Springsteen song because apparently I enjoy feeling divorced even though I've never been married. Then my phone buzzed. A text. Lila. Just her name on my screen had made my chest do that stupid familiar thing, like a dog hearing a car in the driveway. Lila Whitaker and I had been broken up for almost 2 years. Not because we stopped loving each other, that would have been cleaner. We broke up because she wanted a life that moved forward, and I had become very good at standing still. She got offered a position coordinating a pediatric therapy program in another city. I told her she should take it. She told me she didn't want permission. She wanted me to ask her to stay. I didn't. That was the short version. The longer version made me look worse. I remembered her text now, or part of it. Can we talk tonight? That was all. My heart thudded hard enough to make the monitor notice. Denise saw my face. You remember? Lila texted me. She nodded, but her mouth trembled. Was she in the accident? Denise looked away. Cold spread through me faster than the IV drip. Denise. She's alive. I let out a breath that hurt my ribs. She's alive, Denise said again, like she needed to hear it too. She's here. Here as in the hospital? Yes. Is she hurt? A little. Not like you. Denise reached for my hand, then seemed to remember we weren't actually family anymore and pulled back. That tiny hesitation cut deeper than I expected. For almost 4 years, Denise had treated me like a son she didn't have to raise. Sunday dinners, birthday pies, Christmas stockings with my name stitched crooked because she'd done it herself. After the breakup, I'd missed Lila like losing air. But I'd missed Denise's kitchen too. I'd missed belonging somewhere. The door opened, and there she was. Lila Whitaker stood in the doorway in a navy raincoat over hospital scrubs, her dark blonde hair twisted into a messy knot, a white bandage wrapped around her wrist. She looked tired and furious and beautiful in a way that made my chest ache worse than the accident. For a second, neither of us spoke. Her eyes moved over my face, my arm, the wires, the brace on my leg. She tried to look calm, but her chin did one small, dangerous wobble. Then she lifted a paper bag. I brought you a muffin, she said. But now that you're conscious, I'm reconsidering. You look like a man who might use baked goods irresponsibly. I stared at her. Of course, that was the first thing she said. Not, I'm glad you're alive. Not, you scared me. Not, I have been standing outside this door trying not to cry. A muffin insult. God help me, I smiled. It hurt. Blueberry? I asked. Bran. Then I'm glad I survived so I can reject it in person. Her mouth softened, just barely. Denise made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. Lila stepped closer to the bed. How's your head? Full of questions. That's unfortunate. It was already crowded in there. Nice bedside manner. I'm off the clock. She said it lightly, but she came to my side and touched the rail of the bed like she needed something solid. Her fingers were close to mine, too close to ignore. Not touching, but near enough that my body remembered before my brain could object. I looked at her bandaged wrist. What happened to you? Her eyes dropped. Airbag, glass, nothing dramatic. You were with me? She didn't answer fast enough. Denise stood abruptly. I should get more coffee. Mom, Lila said. Denise froze. That one word carried a warning. I looked from one of them to the other. What aren't you telling me? Lila's face went pale. She wasn't scared of the accident. Not exactly. She was scared of me remembering. Or maybe of me not remembering enough. I shifted, pain sparking through my ribs. Lila instinctively reached for me, her hand landing on my shoulder with gentle pressure. Don't, she said. You'll pull something. Her palm was warm through the hospital gown. Her thumb moved once, barely, like she forgot she wasn't allowed to comfort me that way anymore. I looked up at her. For one quiet second, the years between us thinned. The breakup, the pride, the unanswered messages, the birthdays we pretended not to notice. All of it stood around the bed like ghosts waiting to see which one of us would blink first. Lila, I said softly, why were you in my truck? Her hand slipped from my shoulder. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Denise closed her eyes. Then my ex's mother whispered the secret she'd been trying not to spill since the moment I woke up. Because you were taking her to dinner, Graham, she said. You asked my daughter to give you one last chance. For a moment, I thought the concussion had rearranged English. You were taking her to dinner, Graham. You asked my daughter to give you one last chance. The words landed softly. They still knocked the air out of me. I looked at Lila. I did? Her face did something painful then. Half hope, half hurt, both quickly hidden. That's the part you don't remember? She asked. I remember your text. Her fingers tightened around the bed rail. I didn't text you first. Yes, you did. You said, Can we talk tonight? I sent that after you called me. The monitor beside me betrayed my heartbeat with an excited little climb. I called you? For 26 minutes? That sounds like me apologizing. It was. Her mouth curved faintly. Badly at first. Then I believe you. Denise wiped under her eye with the heel of her hand. I'm going to step out. Mom, no, honey. He should hear it from you. Denise paused at the door and looked at me. But for what it's worth, Graham, you sounded like a man who finally found his courage. Then she left. The room got too quiet. Lila and I had once been experts at quiet. Morning quiet with coffee and her bare feet tucked under my thigh on the couch. Workshop quiet when she'd grade reports at my old desk while I finished orders. Storm quiet, wrapped around each other while rain hit the roof over my apartment. This quiet was sharper. I tried to sit up again. Lila pointed at me. If you move, I'm stealing your muffin. You already brought bran. That's not theft. That's disposal. Graham. I settled back because pain was persuasive and because the way she said my name still worked on me. She lowered herself into Denise's chair, careful with her wrist. Up close, I saw the small cut near her temple, the tired shadows under her eyes, the hospital bracelet circling her skin. You should be in bed, I said. I hated it. Still bossy. Still impossible. We almost smiled at the same time. Almost. Then she looked down at her hands. You called me from your shop. I almost didn't answer. That was fair. I had given her plenty of practice not answering me. What made you? You left a voicemail before that. She swallowed. You said if I didn't want to talk, you'd understand. Then you said you were done making me do the brave parts alone. My chest tightened. I didn't remember saying it. I hated that I didn't remember saying something that sounded like the man I'd been trying to become. What else did I say? Her lashes lifted. You said you missed me in ordinary ways. That hit deeper than dramatic would have. I said that? You said you missed my shampoo in your bathroom, my terrible parking, and the way I pretend not to watch competition baking shows while knowing everyone's backstory. That last one is true. I do not know everyone's backstory. Lila, you once cried because a man named Paul underproofed his focaccia after mentioning his grandmother? She raised him. She was in one sentence. Her lips trembled into a real smile, and for one bright second, there she was. My Lila. The woman who labeled leftovers with threats. The woman who danced badly to Motown while making pancakes. The woman who had once kissed sawdust off my jaw and told me I smelled like a forest with commitment issues. Then the smile faded. You asked if I would have dinner with you, she said. Not to fix everything. Just to start. And you said yes? She stared at me as if I had just asked whether the sun was local. I said yes. The heart monitor chirped again. She glanced at it. Subtle. I'm injured. I have no control over my flirting equipment. That got a laugh out of her, a small one. But it was real, and I wanted to keep it. I wanted to gather it carefully, like a fragile thing I had been trusted with. Where were we going? I asked. Rossetti's, I groaned. I really was serious. You hate Rossetti's. They put microgreens on lasagna. You said you were evolving. That doesn't sound like me. You also said you'd wear the blue shirt I like. I looked down at the hospital gown. How'd I do? Honestly, the backless look is bold. Date 2, I'll try pants. Silence followed that. Date 2. I hadn't meant to say it like a promise, but once it was out, I wanted it to be 1. Lila's eyes searched mine. You don't even remember date 1. I remember wanting 1. That's not the same. No, I said, but I'm awake now. Her breath caught. I reached across the small space between us. It pulled something in my ribs, but I didn't care. I turned my palm up on the blanket. An invitation, not a demand. Lila looked at my hand for a long time. Then she placed her fingers in mine. Careful, warm, familiar enough to hurt. My thumb moved over her knuckles, avoiding the taped spot near her wrist. I'm sorry, I said. Her eyes shone immediately, and that nearly broke me. You don't have to do this while drugged. I'm not drugged enough to be smart, apparently. Graham, I'm sorry I let you leave thinking you were the only one who wanted us. I'm sorry I acted like supporting your future meant removing myself from it. I thought I was being noble. You were being an idiot. I know. A very convincing idiot. I had range. She laughed through a tear and I held her hand a little tighter. I was scared, I admitted. You were growing and I felt like I was still building cabinets for couples who knew exactly where their lives were going. You had plans. I had invoices. You had dreams. I had excuses. Her expression softened, but she didn't rescue me from the truth. That was one of the reasons I loved her. Lila never confused comfort with dishonesty. I wanted you to ask me to stay, she said. I know. No, I don't think you did. I didn't need you to solve the distance or marry me in the parking lot or suddenly become a man with a 5-year planner. Thank God. I needed to know you would fight for us. I nodded, throat tight. Outside the room, a cart rattled past. Rain streaked the window. Somewhere in the hospital, life kept moving with obscene confidence. I lifted her hand and pressed my mouth to her knuckles. It was barely a kiss. It changed the room anyway. Lila went still, her eyes fixed on me. I'm fighting now, I said against her skin. Late, bruised, wearing a humiliating gown, but I'm here. Her free hand rose, hesitated, then touched my cheek. Her thumb brushed near the tape on my temple, impossibly gentle. You scared me, she whispered. I scared myself. No, you scared me before the crash, too. Her voice shook, because when you called, I believed you. And then I hated myself for believing you so fast. I turned my face into her palm. Don't hate yourself for knowing me. Her eyes spilled over. She leaned closer until her forehead rested against mine. We stayed like that, breathing the same air, both of us careful of wires and bruises and all the old broken places between us. I don't know how to trust this yet, she said. I won't ask you to do it all at once. Good. But I am going to ask for dinner again. Her mouth brushed close to mine. Not a kiss, not yet. A promise testing its balance. Rossetti's? She whispered. Anywhere without medical lighting. She smiled. You get one dinner. One chance? One dinner, she corrected. Don't get greedy. I've been in love with you for 7 years. Greedy is sort of baked in. Her eyes widened. There it was. Not hidden behind jokes, not delayed by pride, not trapped in a voicemail I couldn't remember. Lila looked at me like the whole world had gone quiet just to hear what came next. You never said that before, she whispered. I know. The door opened before I could say more. Marcus the nurse stepped in, saw our joined hands, and made a heroic attempt not to smile. Sorry to interrupt. Detective Alvarez is here to ask a few questions about the accident. Lila pulled back, but she didn't let go of my hand. Detective. Accident. Questions. The words brought a chill with them, but Lila's fingers stayed threaded through mine and I held on like I had finally learned what not to let leave. Detective Alvarez was a compact woman with silver at her temples and shoes that made no sound when she entered. That unsettled me more than the badge. Lila's hand was still in mine. She must have realized it at the same time I did because her fingers flexed like she was considering retreat. I held on. Not hard, just enough to say, stay if you want. She stayed. Detective Alvarez noticed. Her expression gave away nothing. Mr. Hale. Ms. Whitaker. I'm sorry to bother you. If you're bringing hospital coffee, apology accepted, said. I'm afraid I only bring questions. Then your Yelp review is in danger. Lila made a soft sound beside me, almost a laugh. Alvarez's mouth twitched. I'll keep it brief. Do either of you remember the moments before the crash? Lila looked at me first. There was something intimate about that, checking where I was before answering the world. I hated the reason, loved the instinct. I remember rain, she said. Hard rain. Graham was driving slowly. That's because I am a joyless old man about wet roads, I added. You also lecture strangers about tire tread in parking lots, Lila said. They need to hear it. Alvarez glanced between us, then down at her notepad. And before Mill Road? Lila's thumb moved once against my palm, nervous. We left his shop, she said. We were going to dinner. Rossetti's, I said. She looked at me, surprised. I remember that part now, I lied. I didn't, not exactly, but I remembered wanting to make her smile when she said it. It worked, barely. Alvarez asked a few more questions. Had I been drinking? No, was I distracted? Lila answered before I could. No, he wasn't even looking at his phone. He put it in the console because he said if he ruined his second chance by texting, I had permission to push him into traffic. That sounds romantic, Alvarez said dryly. It was very us, Lila said. Then Alvarez's pen stopped moving. There was no deer, she said. The room cooled. I felt Lila's hand tighten in mine. What? I asked. No tracks, no impact evidence consistent with an animal. Another driver called in a dark SUV leaving the area at high speed. We're checking cameras now. Lila went still beside me. Not fear, exactly. Recognition. I turned my head toward Acer. Lila? She pulled her hand away. That hurt more than I expected. Alvarez saw it too. Ms. Whitaker? Lila stared at the blanket near my knees. My ex-fiancé drives a black SUV. Every machine in the room seemed to get louder. Ex-fiancé. I knew she had dated someone after me. Of course she had. She was smart and warm and beautiful, and I'd been the man dumb enough to let her go. But knowing a thing and hearing it beside a hospital bed while wearing half a gown were different sports. What's his name? Alvarez asked. Simon Voss. My jaw tightened before I could stop it. Lila noticed. It ended 6 months ago. I nodded like a mature adult. Inside, some primitive part of me was picking up a chair. Was the breakup difficult? Alvarez asked. Lila gave a small, humorless laugh. For him. Has he contacted you recently? Texts, calls, flowers at work. He apologized, then blamed me, then apologized for blaming me. She closed her eyes. I blocked him last month. Alvarez wrote that down. Did he know you were with Mr. Hale tonight? Lila's silence was the answer. Lila, I said softly. She looked miserable. He came by the clinic yesterday. I told him I was done talking. He asked if it was because of you. Me? I said your name. Her voice dropped. I was angry. I wanted him to understand there wasn't a door open. For one terrible second, the suspense in the room swelled up, trying to become the whole story. Then Lila looked at me with wet eyes and said, I'm sorry. And that brought me back to what mattered. Not Simon, not the SUV, not the detective's pen moving like a metronome, her. Come here, I said. She shook her head. Graham, please. The word did what pride never could. She stepped close again, careful of the wires. I reached for her hand and this time she gave it to me like she was afraid I'd change my mind. I'm not sorry he knows about me, I said. Her lips parted. I'm sorry he scared you. I'm sorry he made you feel responsible for his choices. But I am not sorry you said my name. Her eyes searched mine. You should be angry. I am, just not at you. Alvarez cleared her throat gently. I'll have an officer take a formal statement from you later, Ms. Whitaker. For now, I'd recommend neither of you discuss this with Mr. Voss if he contacts you. Call us immediately. Lila nodded. The detective gave us her card, promised to update us, and left with Marcus hovering in the doorway like he wanted gossip and vitals in equal measure. Once we were alone, Lila sat on the edge of the bed. Your ribs, she warned, even as she leaned in. My ribs are emotionally supportive. That's not medically recognized. It should be. She smiled, but it wavered. I lifted my hand, touched the ends of her hair where they had escaped her knot. You were engaged. She flinched. Almost. Technically, briefly. That's a lot of adverbs. I gave the ring back after 3 weeks. Why? She looked down at our hands. Because he proposed in front of his entire family at a restaurant. There was applause. A violinist appeared. I panicked and said yes. That sounds like a hostage situation with Parmesan. A laugh burst out of her, sudden and beautiful. Then she covered her mouth with her good hand. Don't make me laugh. I'm trying to be ashamed. Don't be. I should have known sooner. About him? About me. She looked at me then, open in a way that undid me. I thought choosing someone stable would fix what broke when we ended. Simon had plans, calendars, matching luggage. He knew where he wanted to live and how many children and what kind of countertops. As a professional, I'm offended by countertop certainty. He looked right on paper. And off paper, he never felt like home. The words entered me quietly and stayed. I brushed my thumb over hers. And I did? Lila's eyes filled again, but this time she didn't look away. You still do, she whispered. There are moments in life a man should be smooth. I was not. I made a sound somewhere between a breath and a confession, and then I tugged her closer until she leaned over me, one hand braced near my shoulder. Careful, she murmured. I am being careful. Extremely careful. Historic levels of careful. With your stitches? With you. That stopped her. The space between us shrank. Her gaze dropped to my mouth and every bruise in my body went quiet. Graham, she whispered, and it was warning, question, and yes all at once. I let her choose. She chose. Lila kissed me softly, barely more than pressure because of the split in my lip in the hospital bed and 2 years of hurt sitting between us. But she kissed me, and I felt it everywhere. When she pulled back, her forehead rested against mine again. Her breath shook. That was reckless, she said. That was the safest thing I've done in years. She laughed under her breath. You're concussed. I was in love before the head injury. Her fingers curled lightly in my gown near my shoulder. Say it again. I'm concussed? Graham, I smiled, then sobered because she deserved the clean truth. I love you, Lila Whitaker. I loved you badly before. Quietly. Cowardly. I'm trying not to do that anymore. She closed her eyes. When she opened them, the softness there nearly flattened me. I love you too, she said. I'm angry at you and I don't trust you completely, and I love you anyway. I'll take the package. It comes with conditions. I assumed there would be a spreadsheet. First condition, she said, touching my cheek. No disappearing when it gets hard. Agreed. Second, you come to therapy. I blinked. Like couples therapy? Eventually. Also maybe individual. You have the emotional communication skills of a locked toolbox? That is hurtful to toolboxes? Third, she whispered, and her voice got smaller. You don't get to ask for one last chance and then make me be the only brave one again. I covered her hand with mine. I won't. For a while, we stayed like that. Not fixed, not simple, but together in the ruined fluorescent beginning of something. Then her phone buzzed on the chair. We both looked. The screen lit with a blocked number. Lila's face drained of color. I wanted to crush the phone, the fear, the entire outside world. Instead, I held out Alvarez's card. Together, I said. Lila looked at me, then took my hand before she reached for the phone. Together, she repeated. The phone stopped buzzing before Lila picked it up. A blocked number, one missed call, 3 seconds of silence. Then a voicemail appeared. Lila stared at the screen like it might bite. You don't have to listen, I said. Her eyes flicked to mine. I do. No, Alvarez does. That made her breathe again. She sent the call log and voicemail to the detective, without. Playing it, her thumb trembled as she typed. I hated Simon Voss with an efficiency that surprised even me, but I kept my mouth shut because this was not the time to perform jealousy in a hospital gown. Lila locked her phone and set it face down. Then she looked at me and all the strength ran out of her expression. I'm tired of men turning love into pressure, she said. The words hit their mark. Not because I was Simon, I wasn't, but I had pressured her in my own way, with absence, with silence, with making her guess what I felt until she exhausted herself trying. I did that too, I said. Her brow pinched. No, you didn't stalk me. I know, but I made you carry the weight. I made wanting me feel like work. Lila sank into the chair beside my bed. Sometimes loving you felt like standing outside a locked house with all the lights on. That one split me open cleanly. I looked down at our hands, then forced myself to look back at her. I don't want you outside anymore. You can't just say that because you almost died. I'm not. My voice came out rough. I'm saying it because I almost lived the rest of my life without telling you. Her eyes shone. A nurse passed outside. The rain had softened to a steady hush against the window. The hospital room smelled like antiseptic, plastic, and the bran muffin Lila had abandoned on the table like a threat. I nodded toward it. Is that muffin still available, or has it been classified as evidence? She blinked, then laughed. A tired, watery laugh. Are you flirting with me through baked goods? I'm trying to pivot us away from emotional devastation. Very healthy. I'm going to therapy, remember? Not yet, you're not. Fine, consider this pre-therapy growth. She reached for the bag, pulled out the muffin, broke off a piece, and held it up. I opened my mouth. She paused. If I feed you this, you're not allowed to make it weird. Lila, we once showered together in a motel with water pressure like a sneeze. The weird ship has sailed. Color rose in her cheeks. There, that was worth every bruised rib. She fed me the tiny piece of muffin. It tasted like cardboard that had heard about blueberries from a distance. I chewed solemnly. Well, she asked. I've never been more aware of my mortality. She laughed for real this time, and I fell in love with the sound all over again. Hospital date, I said. What? This? You, me, terrible muffin, rain, one of us pantsless? You're not calling this a date. I asked you to dinner. Circumstances adjusted. I'm adapting. You are concussed and eating bran in a backless gown. And yet you kissed me. She rolled her eyes, but her smile lingered. Then, slowly, she pushed the chair closer until her knee touched the side of my mattress. Fine, hospital date, but I'm rating it harshly. Ambiance? Fluorescent. Service? Marcus is excellent. Company? She looked at me then, really looked, and the teasing faded into something warmer. Company is complicated, she said, but hard to resist. My heart did that dumb dog at the driveway thing again. I reached for her. She came willingly this time, leaning close enough that I could smell rain in her hair and the faint citrus soap she always used. I'm going to make mistakes, I said. I know. That was fast. You are a man. Cruel but data-supported. Her fingers brushed the tape near my temple. I don't need perfect, I need present. I can do present. Can you? The question was gentle, not accusing, and somehow that made it harder. I thought about my shop, the long hours I hid inside because wood was easier than feelings. The way I'd convinced myself being useful was the same as being open. I'll learn, I said, and when I don't know how, I'll say that instead of disappearing into walnut and shame. Walnut and shame sounds like an expensive candle. I'll make you one. Do not. I smiled, then turned my face and kissed her palm. She inhaled softly. No audience this time. No detective, no mother, no threat in the room. Just us, choosing something small and brave. Lila leaned down and kissed me again. This one lasted longer. Still careful, still soft, but not accidental. Her mouth moved over mine with a tenderness that made every monitor in the room suddenly feel too public. I lifted my hand to the back of her neck, fingers slipping into the loose hair there, and she made a tiny sound that I felt more than heard. When she pulled away, her cheeks were pink. Your heart rate, she whispered. Medical equipment is so intrusive. It's beeping faster. That is your fault. She touched her forehead to mine. Good. One word, wicked and pleased. I groaned. You can't flirt like that while I'm immobilized. I can, it's safer. I'm filing a complaint. With Marcus? With God? She laughed against my cheek, and for a few minutes the world narrowed to her hand in mine, her breath near my mouth, the miracle of her not leaving. Eventually her phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Detective Alvarez. Lila read it aloud. "We have the voicemail. Do not respond. Officer stationed near your floor until we locate Voss." A hard knot formed in my stomach, but I did what I'd promised myself. I didn't make fear the main thing. I lifted Lila's hand back to my mouth and kissed each knuckle, slow enough that her attention returned to me. "Hey," I said, "look at me." She did. "We're on a date, remember? No other men allowed." Her lips twitched. "Possessive? Only of the reservation." "This date has no reservation." "Exactly, it's exclusive." She studied me, and I saw the fear loosen its grip by one finger. "Tell me something ordinary," she said. "Ordinary? I need ordinary." I nodded. "Mrs. Hanley's island is almost done." She changed her mind about the drawer pulls for the fourth time. "Brass? Black iron now." "Bold. Reckless. Also, my sister's going to cry when she sees you." "Because she missed me?" "Because she bet $20 I'd never get my head out of my ass." Lila's laugh softened. "Smart woman." "She asked about you every Christmas." Her smile faded into something aching. "I missed your family." "They missed you." "I missed your house too," she admitted. "The crooked porch step, the blue mug with the chip, your ridiculous record collection. You can see it again." Her eyes lifted. I didn't rush to fill the silence, that was new for me. I let the invitation sit there, open and imperfect. "I'd like that," she said. A clear step, small, but real. The door opened, and Denise peeked in carrying 2 coffees. She saw Lila bent close to me, our hands tangled together, and stopped. "Oh," she said. Lila straightened, but she didn't let go. Denise's eyes filled immediately. "Oh, thank God." "Mom," Lila warned, embarrassed, "I'm not saying anything." "You are crying silently." "That is different." I cleared my throat. "Denise, if you're taking orders, this hospital date could use dessert that isn't made of tree bark." She looked at the bran muffin, then at her daughter. "You brought him bran?" "He deserved humility." Denise handed her a coffee and smiled at me over the rim of the other cup. "For what it's worth, Graham, when you called me before picking her up, you asked what flowers she liked now." Lila turned to me. "You called my mother?" "I don't remember, but that sounds terrifying." "You asked," Denise said softly, "because you said you didn't want to love the memory of her. You wanted to learn the woman she'd become." Lila went very still. My throat tightened. "I said that?" Denise nodded. Lila looked down at me, all the teasing gone. Slowly, she leaned in and pressed a kiss to my forehead, just above the bandage. "That," she whispered, "gets you a second date." Before I could answer, my room phone rang. All 3 of us froze. Not Lila's cell, the hospital phone. Denise's face changed as she looked at the display. No number, just the front desk extension. The room phone kept ringing. Once, twice. Lila's hand found mine. Denise set the coffees down with the careful precision of a woman trying not to panic. "Don't answer it." "I wasn't planning to host a conference call," I said, but my voice had lost its humor. Marcus appeared in the doorway almost immediately, one hand on the frame. "Everyone okay?" The phone rang again. "Front desk says a man called asking for Mr. Hale's room," Marcus said. "Wouldn't give his name." They didn't transfer him, but somehow this line started ringing. Lila's face went white. I squeezed her fingers. "Hey, eyes on me." She looked at me. There were 100 things I wanted to do. Rip the phone from the wall, stand between her and every bad thing, prove I could protect what I'd once failed to keep. But love wasn't volume. It wasn't making myself the biggest thing in the room. So I stayed still, held her hand and asked, "What do you want to do?" Her breath shook. Then her shoulders straightened. "I want to let the police handle Simon," she said. "And I want to stop letting him steal every room I'm in." Marcus nodded, unplugged the phone from the wall, and said he'd call security. Just like that, the ringing stopped. The silence afterward felt enormous. Lila stared at the dead phone, then laughed once. Not because it was funny, because sometimes your body chooses the wrong door when fear tries to leave. Denise wrapped an arm around her. Sweetheart. I'm okay, Lila said, and then looked at me. I think I'm actually okay. You look very heroic, I told her. I'm wearing coffee on my sleeve. Battle damage? A uniformed officer arrived 10 minutes later. Detective Alvarez followed not long after. They had found Simon Voss 3 blocks from the hospital, sitting in his SUV in a loading zone with my room number written on the back of a receipt. He denied being on Mill Road. Then they found paint transfer on his bumper. That part should have felt satisfying. Maybe it would later. In that moment, all I felt was Lila's hand trembling in mine as Alvarez explained they were taking him in for questioning. When the detective left, Lila turned to me and said, I don't want him to be the story of tonight. He isn't. No? No. I lifted her hand carefully because every part of me still hurt. Tonight is the night you agreed to have dinner with me twice. Her mouth curved. Once in theory, once in a hospital. That counts as 2. You're padding your numbers. I'm a businessman. You build tables. And relationships, apparently. She tried not to smile and failed. Denise made a noise into her coffee that sounded suspiciously like a sob dressed up as a cough. Mom, Lila said, I'm fine. You're crying into decaf. I said I'm fine. My parents arrived near midnight, sunburned from Arizona and terrified in the way parents are when their adult child becomes breakable again. My sister Tessa showed up an hour after that with mascara under both eyes and a grocery bag full of snacks because she didn't trust hospitals with joy. She took one look at Lila holding my hand and burst into tears. Then she pointed at me. You owe me $20. Lila laughed so hard she had to sit down. That was how I knew we were going to survive. Not because Simon was arrested, not because the accident was over, because laughter came back into the room and found a place to sit beside us. I spent 3 days in the hospital. Lila spent most of them in the chair next to my bed, grading paperwork, stealing my pudding, and pretending not to watch me sleep. You snore when you're medicated, she said on the second morning. You stare at men who snore. Clinical observation. Romantic obsession. In your dreams, Hale. Frequently, Whitaker. She blushed every time I used her last name like that. So naturally, I did it often. On the day they discharged me, I expected Lila to drive me home, drop me off, and retreat to the safe distance she had every right to keep. Instead, she stood in my living room, looked at the crooked porch step, the chipped blue mug by the sink, the record collection against the wall, and whispered, I missed this. I set my crutches aside and leaned against the counter. You can come back slow. She turned to me. I don't want slow because I'm scared. I want slow because we're doing it right. I nodded. Then slow it is. She stepped close, careful of my ribs, and slid her arms around my waist. That first hug in my house nearly undid me. No hospital monitors, no detective, no blocked numbers. Just Lila holding me in the place I'd once let become too quiet. I love you, she said into my chest. I kissed the top of her head. I love you too. And I'm still mad. I love you, Mad. You'd better. I do. She lifted her face and I kissed her in my kitchen with my crutches propped against the cabinets and rain tapping gently against the windows again. But this time, rain didn't feel like warning. It felt like washing something clean. 6 months later, we finally made it to Rossetti's. I wore the blue shirt. Lila wore a green dress that made me forget every apology I had practiced in the mirror, and when the waiter brought lasagna with microgreens, I ate it without complaint. Mostly. You're twitching, she said. There are leaves on my cheese. Growth is painful. So are microgreens. She reached across the table and took my hand. I'm proud of you. For eating garnish? For staying? I stopped joking then, because she was right. Staying had become the work. Not dramatic work. Not movie scene work. Ordinary work. Therapy on Tuesdays. Honest answers when I wanted to hide. driving to her place even when I was tired because love was not something I could keep on a shelf until convenient. Learning the woman she had become, not worshiping the memory of the girl I'd lost. A year after that night, I built us a dining table from walnut with a thin line of maple running through the center. Symbolic, Tessa said when she saw it. Expensive, I corrected. Lila ran her fingers over the smooth grain. It's beautiful. It's ours, I said. Her eyes lifted to mine. By then, Simon was a closed chapter handled by courts and restraining orders and distance. He no longer owned the shape of any room she entered. And I no longer made Lila stand outside locked doors. That evening, our families crowded around the table for dinner. Denise brought pie, my mother brought flowers. Tessa brought a date nobody liked, but everyone tolerated because he carried chairs without being asked. Lila sat beside me, her knee pressed against mine under the table. Halfway through dessert, she leaned close and whispered, "You know, this is a much better date than the hospital one." I looked around at the noise, the candlelight, the people we loved, the woman I had almost lost twice and finally learned how to choose out loud. Then I took her hand under the table. "I don't know," I whispered back. "The hospital date had a pretty good kiss." She smiled, soft and wicked. "This one can have one too." So I kissed her there, in front of everyone, while Denise cried into her pie and Tessa shouted that she was raising her original bet. Lila laughed against my mouth, and I thought, this is what waking up really feels like. Not opening your eyes in a hospital bed, opening your heart before it's too late, and finding the person you love still reaching back. What would you have done if you woke up in the hospital and your ex's mom was sitting there with a secret that could change everything? Have you ever experienced something even close to that? An accident, a second chance, or a love that came back when you least expected it? Tell your story in the comments. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.